So you're thinking of moving to Niagara Falls, New York. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 pros and 5 cons to living in Niagara Falls, New York. And if you stick around until the end, I'm going to share with you one of the best kept secrets of Niagara Falls. So what do you say we get started? If this is your first time to my channel and you want to know everything there is to know about Niagara Falls, subscribe below and don't forget to tap that bell for instant notification so you can be the first to know about any changes in the Niagara Falls real estate market. 5 pros and cons to living in Niagara Falls, New York. Let's start with pro number 1, affordable housing. Zillow recently published an article saying that Buffalo, New York was the hottest housing market in the country. Well, Niagara Falls is just 20 miles north of Buffalo, New York. And it's kind of interesting because of the fact that the market is so hot in Buffalo, a lot of people are being beat out on their offers. They're putting offers in time and time again, and they're never getting the house. People are bidding way over asking price. The winning bids are typically people that have the cash to buy the homes, people with no home inspections. So at any rate, we're starting to notice that a lot of these buyers are migrating north towards Niagara Falls because of the affordability. A typical home in LaSalle in Niagara Falls runs anywhere from $120,000 to $250,000. So let's just take 2 examples. I pulled up 2 properties that recently sold. One was in LaSalle. The first one is a Cape Cod. It was a 1,200 square foot home, and it sold for $150,000. Property taxes were $3,100. So I did the calculation, and it worked out to, at 6.5% interest, the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance on that home in LaSalle and Niagara Falls would cost you $1,298 a month. Who is not paying more than that in rent right now? So you can see where it's a great opportunity. So I had another example. I took the DeVoe section of Niagara Falls, which is the other end of the city. It's more downtown near the gorge. And I picked a home there. It was a Cape Cod. It was a 1,356 square foot home, and it was sold for $200,000. So the same calculation at 6.5% with the taxes worked out to $1,655 a year. So you can see where there's some real good opportunities to purchase homes here in Niagara Falls. So that is our first pro, is affordable housing. Okay, pro number 2 to living in Niagara Falls, New York. Pro number 2 has got to be the natural beauty and the attractions in Niagara Falls. And of course, the cream of the crop is the actual Niagara Falls itself. So surrounding Niagara Falls, there are a lot of different things that you can do. And ironically, many of the people who have always lived in Niagara Falls their whole life, a lot of them have never been down to the falls and have never gone for a ride on the Maid of the Mist, or went down to the Cave of the Winds at the Hurricane Deck, or on the observation tower. So these are some of the things that you can do right there in the falls. A lot of the locals do hike around Goat Island. It's a great spot to do a walk in the morning, and you can walk around the rapids on both sides of the island just before the water goes over the falls. So you have the observation tower, you have the Hurricane Deck, which is basically the Cave of the Winds. Is a deck that they build every year, right down to the base of the falls, and you literally will be standing at the bottom of the falls with the water coming down, splashing on the deck, and they call that the Hurricane Deck. That's a terrific event. I highly recommend doing that. One of the other things you can do if you're downtown is you can go on the Maid of the Mist. The Maid of the Mist departs their dock every 20 minutes with a boatload of people, and they take them upriver towards the Horseshoe Falls. They take them right up to the base of the Horseshoe Falls, and the roar of the water coming down is spectacular. I highly recommend that. One of the other things that we have in this area as far as with nature, beauty, and attractions is we have the Upper Niagara River. The Upper Niagara River is a boater's paradise. There's lots of fishing, water skiing. Scuba divers like to drift dive in the upper river because there's a continuous current. It's not really swift. It's only about 2 to 3 miles an hour. It's a steady drift. So you can drift dive, which is a lot of fun. You hang on a rope on a boat with your diver's flag, and you drift. Literally, it's a lazy man's swim, as you just drift along the bottom. You just watch things as you go by. So that's it for pro number 2. Let's move on to pro number 3. Pro number 3 has to be the access to the parks and recreation. In Niagara Falls, we have Goat Island Park, Niagara Falls State Park, Whirlpool State Park, Devil's Hole State Park, just to name a few. And the other interesting thing about all of these parks is they overlook the Niagara River Gorge. If you've ever been to the Grand Canyon, you have an idea what the gorge is going to look like. There's actually 3 different locations where you can go down a set of stairs, stone stairs, that take you right down to the waterfront in the gorge. And there's a path down there. You can walk down the path. So it's very popular for hikers. It's also popular for anglers. You can catch salmon, steelhead trout, you name it. There's actually sturgeon in the lower river, but I think it's illegal to take a sturgeon. But if you see one, they look like a dinosaur. They're prehistoric fish, and it's something really cool to see. So let's move on to pro number 4, improving infrastructure. Several years ago, Niagara Falls had the idea to tear down their older dilapidated buildings in downtown Niagara Falls. They called it urban renewal, and they decided they're going to take all the old buildings down, and then hopefully people will come in and build all brand new buildings and businesses. It didn't happen. So Niagara Falls ended up like a wasteland for several years downtown. There was just nothing going on. There was nothing for tourists to do. So the state got together with the city, and they've been working on that for years now, and they've made huge improvements. So what you're starting to see downtown now is newer roads. We see several new hotels, tourist venues, souvenir shops, restaurants. So there's a lot more vitality in Niagara Falls now, in downtown Niagara Falls. One of the issues that the locals have is the fact that the city of Niagara Falls is outside of the New York State Park. So basically, all of the events and things that happen inside the state parks, all the money generated from that goes directly to Albany. It's always been a kind of a bone of contention for the city. You'd think that the state would share more money with the city because of the fact that they're home to the Niagara Falls and the parks. Pro number 5 would be our proximity to Canada and Buffalo. And the reason I mention that is the fact that we share a border with Canada. Right now, and just a perfect example is the American dollar is worth $1.45 in Canada. So shopping over Canada is very affordable. And a good example of that is just yesterday, my girl and I went over to a restaurant called the Lake House up on the Queen Elizabeth Way. It was about 20 minutes away. And the bill was $75. So I put it on my credit card, and I get the receipt from my credit card. It was like $52, I think. So that's quite a benefit. Also, the Canadians are our friends, they're our neighbors. And we're just a short hop from Toronto, which is I'd say about an hour and 15 minutes away. And it's a beautiful trip because you actually follow the Lake Ontario shoreline all the way up to Toronto. You can go up to CN Tower. You can go to the waterfront there because they're sitting right on the shores of Lake Ontario, which they share with us. We're on the shores of Lake Ontario right here in Youngstown. So those are the 5 pros to living in Niagara Falls, New York. Next, I'm going to share with you 5 cons to living in Niagara Falls, New York. So now let's talk about the 5 cons to living in Niagara Falls. Number 1 would be economic challenges. The reason being is that years ago, Niagara Falls used to be an industrial-based economy because of the availability of fresh water from the upper Niagara River and the electricity, low-cost electricity from our hydroelectric dam. A lot of larger industries and plants settled on Buffalo Avenue, our industrial section of Buffalo Avenue. We had DuPont, Olin, Occidental, several of the big manufacturing and chemical companies were right here in Niagara Falls. And the jobs were plentiful. The population was around 100,000 people. And as the economy changed and we got more competition from overseas, we started to lose a lot of our industry. And Niagara Falls started to suffer. Our population started to drop. The good jobs started to disappear. And currently we're at about 50,000 population. But we are switching over to more of a tourist type of an economy, and things are looking up, although it has been a bit of a challenge. Number 2, we're in New York State, and New York State is known for high taxes. It's one of the highest tax states in the country. Might be second only to California. So you might take a bit of a bite with taxes, not just payroll taxes, but also property taxes tend to be higher. It's unfortunate, but it's just the reality of living in New York. Number 3, there are some areas have high crime, and what I would recommend is just going to the FBI's list of crime statistics for certain areas. But unfortunately, because of the poverty and such, there are some areas of the falls that experience some higher crime. For number 4, cold, snowy winters. If you've heard about Buffalo, all you hear about is just how terrible the winters are in Buffalo, New York. Well, we're just 20 miles north of Buffalo, but there's an interesting fact. Buffalo gets hammered by lake effect snow from Lake Erie because Buffalo sits here. Lake Erie, the wind blows from west to east, which means this way it picks up all that moisture on the lake and it dumps it on Buffalo. And it only happens a few times a year, but it gets national notoriety. The interesting point about Niagara Falls is if this is Buffalo, this is Niagara Falls, and this is the Niagara Falls, or the Niagara Peninsula, which comes across Canada. And what that does is it protects us from that lake effect snow. So the lake actually goes by us to the south. An interesting story was they had a storm several years ago called the surprise October storm. And Buffalo was getting hammered by lake effect snow from Lake Erie. And while that was going on, I was raking my leaves in Youngstown. I mean, it was sunny out and I was raking my leaves. So that gives you an idea just how much protection we get from that Niagara Peninsula up here north away from just north of Buffalo. So Niagara Falls is generally spared the lake effect snows, which is pretty typical every year. And number 5 is there are limited healthcare options here. We do have a fairly large hospital, Niagara Falls Memorial Medical Center, where they can do pretty much any procedure. They can do surgeries there. And we have another hospital out in Lewiston called St. Mary's, but they scaled back some of their operations quite a bit. So the beauty of that, though, is we have Buffalo. Buffalo has several large major hospitals. They have Roswell Park Cancer Institute, Buffalo General, Erie County Medical Center, and a few others, just to name a few. Huge hospitals. Erie County Medical Center is a Class 1 trauma center. So we're 20 miles away, not even 20 minutes by ambulance. So if you're going to have a big procedure or something very serious, most likely you'll end up in a Buffalo hospital. But it's, again, 20 minutes away. If you've enjoyed this video, I'm asking you to do me a huge favor and subscribe below. Don't forget to tap that bell for notifications so you can be the first to know about changes here in Niagara Falls. As always, feel free to reach out to me anytime. The information below. You can phone me, email me, text me, DM me, however you want to get in touch with me, and I'll help you make a smooth move. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next one.